The mining world at the edge of the galaxy was a place long forgotten by empires and kings. Its skies always dark with storms, its soil poisoned by old machines, and the people who lived there were poor and tired. Many had come in search of work, but found only misery. In a small corner of this world stood a broken clinic, walls cracked and roof leaking, and inside worked a poor human medic named Elias. He had no fancy machines, no strong soldiers to protect him, only a worn bag of tools and his own 2 hands. Still, he tried every day to heal the sick and save the weak. Elias was not rich. He barely earned enough to eat. Sometimes he went hungry, so a patient could have medicine instead. Other humans had left this place long ago, but Elias stayed because he could not walk away from suffering. The people respected him but also thought him foolish. They whispered that his kindness would one day kill him. Still, Elias smiled and continued. His life was lonely. The clinic was silent except for the sound of coughing patients or the hiss of rain on the roof. One stormy night, when thunder cracked like cannons and the ground shook, a group of scavengers arrived at the clinic. They dragged with them a strange cage pulled from the wreck of a sunken freighter near the coast. The cage smelled of salt and rust. Inside it lay something no one had ever seen before, a small creature pale as snow, its scales covered in barnacles and sharp shells, its thin wings stuck to its body, its chest rising only a little with each breath. The scavengers laughed and said they had found a treasure, an albino baby dragon. They told Elias he should clean it and maybe sell it to the next passing trader. The creature was worth more than all the people in the outpost combined. They spoke of riches, of ships, of power. But Elias did not hear their greed. He only saw a dying creature, its eyes half closed, too weak even to roar. When the scavengers left, Elias stayed near the cage. He studied the baby dragon, its small claws twitched as if reaching for something, and though it was a beast, Elias felt something stir inside him. It was not fear, it was pity. No, more than pity. It was the same feeling he felt when a sick child lay in his arms. He knew he could not let it die. He opened the cage even though his hands shook. The creature could bite him. It could burn him. But instead, it only whined softly, like a lost child. Its body was cold to the touch, and the barnacles clung tight to its skin like chains. Elias brought it into the clinic. He placed it on an old bed and lit a fire to warm the room. The dragon's eyes flickered open, pale silver like moonlight, and for a moment, they locked. On his, Elias began to work. He boiled water, crushed herbs, and cut away the barnacles one by one. Each time the dragon winced, Elias whispered gentle words, telling it to hold on, telling it to fight. He worked until his fingers bled, until the room smelled of salt and blood. Slowly, he revealed the true body under the shells, thin, scarred, fragile, yet beautiful in its strange way. Hours passed. The storm outside grew stronger, but inside the clinic there was only the sound of Elias's hands and the dragon's weak breathing. Finally, when the last barnacle fell away, the creature gave a long sigh. Its chest rose higher. Its wings shivered as if remembering how to move. Elias smiled through his tired eyes. He had seen many patients at death's door, but this one was different. It was not just an animal. It was something greater, something rare. Elias gave it water in a small bowl. The dragon licked it slowly, then rested its head against his arm. He froze, surprised at the trust. No creature so wounded should have trusted a human. Yet it did. Outside, the scavengers were already spreading rumors in the tavern, telling everyone about the treasure they had found. Some spoke of selling it, others of killing it before it grew, but inside that small leaking clinic, Elias made a silent vow. He would protect this baby dragon, he would heal it, even if the whole outpost turned against him, because in those pale silver eyes he saw something no riches could buy. He saw life asking for one more chance, and Elias was the only one willing to give it. That night, as thunder shook the world and the storm beat against the roof, the poor human medic sat beside the albino dragon, watching over it as it slept. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew his life had already changed forever. For he had rescued something rare, something fragile, and perhaps something powerful, and the galaxy would one day remember this night. The night a poor human medic chose mercy over gold and saved a baby dragon covered in barnacles. The outpost woke to another gray morning. The storm had left mud and broken roofs behind. But inside Elias's small clinic, there was a fragile kind of peace. The albino baby dragon still slept on the old bed, its breaths slow but stronger than before. Elias had stayed awake all night to make sure it survived. His eyes heavy, his hands sore, but his heart steady. He had chosen this path. When the dragon stirred, Elias brought it water and scraps of food. He had no meat, only broth made from dried roots and herbs. He lifted the bowl carefully. The dragon sniffed, then licked the liquid. Slowly, its tongue small and pink against its pale scales. Elias smiled faintly. It was alive, and that was enough. But when he looked closer, his smile faded. The barnacles were gone, yet beneath them lay deep wounds, raw lines across its body like scars from chains. Elias cleaned each wound with boiled water and herbs. The dragon winced but did not fight him. It only gave small, broken sounds, not roars, not growls, but whimpers like a child in pain. Elias whispered gentle words to calm it, telling it to stay, telling it that it was safe as he worked. He realized something. This creature had been tortured, not hunted, not captured by chance, but chained and drowned on purpose. The scars spoke of cruelty, of someone who wanted it broken. When Elias pressed his hand softly against the dragon's chest, he felt the weak thump of its heart. He thought of all the patients he had lost over the years because medicine had been too little, too late. He could not let that happen again. Not this time, not to this creature. As the day passed, he wrapped its wounds with strips of cloth, changed the bedding, and gave it warmth by keeping the fire alive. And slowly, the dragon's eyes opened wider. Those pale silver eyes watched him closely, full of fear but also something more. Trust. The creature could have bitten him when he touched its wings, but it did not. Instead, it let him lift and clean them, fragile bones trembling. In his hands outside, whispers grew louder. Scavengers who had seen the dragon's cage were already spreading stories. They spoke of riches to anyone who would listen. They claimed Elias was hiding a treasure in his clinic, worth more than the outpost itself. The merchants in the tavern licked their lips, dreaming of trade with empires who collected rare beasts. Guards muttered that it was dangerous to keep such a creature alive. But Elias stayed inside, focused only on the creature before him. He gave it food again, and this time it ate faster, hungrier, its strength slowly returning. Then something happened, something that made Elias freeze when he leaned close. The dragon looked at him and a faint sound echoed inside his mind. Not a noise of the room, not the growl of its throat, but a broken whisper. Elias blinked, heart racing. The dragon's mouth had not moved, yet he had heard it. A word, not clear, not human, but a word shaped like pain, like drowning. His hands trembled. He looked into its eyes and for the first time understood this was no beast, no animal. This was an intelligent being, a young one, tortured and scarred, left for dead. The dragon closed its eyes again, too weak to speak more, but Elias sat in silence, his thoughts spinning. He had seen many wonders in his life, strange alien medicines, ships that crossed stars, but nothing like this. He whispered softly, telling the dragon that it was safe now, that he would protect it. And though it gave no reply, he felt a small warmth in his chest, as if it had heard him. That night, while the outpost drank and gossiped, Elias sat by the bed, writing notes on scraps of paper, drawing sketches of the wounds, listing herbs he needed. His hands moved fast, his mind alive with a new fire. He was poor. He had nothing but his skill, but that skill was enough to fight death. When the wind rattled the windows, Elias looked at the sleeping dragon and made a vow stronger than the one before. He would not just heal its body, he would heal its spirit, no matter who came asking, no matter what danger followed. This creature was more than treasure, more than danger. It was a life that deserved a chance. And so the poor human medic kept watch through the night again, listening to the storm outside, feeling the weight of whispers growing beyond his door. But his heart knew only one truth. The albino baby dragon was no longer just a patient. It was his responsibility, and soon it would change everything. The outpost did not sleep. The storm had passed, but the whispers spread faster than the rain ever could. In the narrow streets and crowded taverns, people spoke of the human medic and the strange creature hidden in his clinic. They called it treasure, they called it danger. Some wanted to steal it, others wanted to burn it before it grew. Elias heard the rumors whenever he stepped outside, but he kept his head down, carrying herbs in one hand and food scraps in the other. He knew eyes followed him, waiting. Inside his small clinic, the albino baby dragon was slowly changing. The wounds no longer bled, its breathing grew steadier, and it even tried to stretch its fragile wings. Elias watched closely, pride and worry mixing in his chest. He had saved many lives, but this one was different. This one carried a mystery. One evening, as the sky turned red with sunset, Elias sat by the dragon's bed. He gave it broth, and for the first time, it ate without hesitation. Afterward, it fixed its pale silver eyes on him. Unblinking, Elias felt a chill. Then a sound filled his head. Not from the room, not from his ears, but from somewhere deeper. It was a voice, broken and faint, words shaped like whispers. Elias froze, his spoon clattering to the floor. The dragon had not moved its mouth, but he heard it clear, drowning, pain, cold. Chains. The words came like pieces of memory, heavy with sorrow. Elias's heart raced. He tried to answer, whispering aloud, telling the dragon it was safe now, that the chains were gone. The dragon's eyes blinked slowly, its head lowering onto the bed. But before it drifted to sleep, one last whisper echoed inside Elias's mind. A single word. Friend. Elias sat in silence, the fire crackling beside him, his breath shaky. He realized what no one else in the outpost knew. The dragon was not a beast. It was intelligent, young, and terrified. It had been tortured, and yet it reached for him. Days passed, the bond between them grew. Elias began speaking to it as he worked, telling stories of Earth, of rivers and forests the dragon would never see. He spoke of humanity's long journeys, of mistakes and triumphs. At first he thought he was only talking to himself, but sometimes when he spoke of hope, he felt warmth stir in his mind, like an echo, like the dragon understood. But outside, danger thickened. The scavengers returned with greed in their eyes. They knocked on his door, offering credits, weapons, even passage to better worlds if he handed over the creature. Elias refused, claiming it was too sick, too fragile. The scavengers left, but not before muttering threats. By night, Elias lay awake, listening to footsteps outside his clinic. Shadows moving past his windows. The outpost was turning against him. Some feared the dragon would bring hunters. Others wanted gold. But Elias could not give it up. Not after what he had seen. Not after hearing its broken voice call him friend. One night, as rain tapped the roof, the dragon stirred from its sleep. Elias rose quickly, thinking it was in pain, but then he froze. The dragon lifted its head and looked directly at him, and in his mind, the words came clearer. The memories, sharper, cold water filling lungs, chains biting into scales, laughter of cruel voices, the taste of salt and blood. Elias clenched his fists, rage burning through his tired body. Someone had done this. Someone had broken a child. He reached out and touched its scarred neck gently, whispering again, telling it no more chains, no more drowning. Only life, only freedom. The dragon's breathing steadied. Its eyes closed, and for a moment, Elias felt something stronger than fear. He felt a bond forming, invisible but unbreakable. Yet even as the clinic grew quiet, Elias knew the silence would not last. The whispers in the outpost were now too loud, and soon, someone powerful would come searching. But Elias also knew one truth. Whatever happened next, he would stand between them and the creature, because the albino baby dragon was no longer just a patient, no longer just a secret. It was a friend who had chosen him, and that choice meant everything. The outpost's peace shattered when the first black ship broke through the clouds. It was larger than anything the miners had ever seen. Its hull scarred from battles, its engines burning with blue fire. People rushed into the streets pointing and whispering in fear. They knew this was not a trader's vessel. This was a hunter's warship, and it had come for only one reason. Inside the clinic, Elias felt the walls shake as the ship landed. He looked at the albino baby dragon sleeping weakly on the bed, its pale chest rising and falling. He whispered softly, telling it to stay quiet. Then he closed the curtains and checked his few supplies. His heart beat like a drum. He had always known rumors would reach the wrong ears, but he had hoped for more time. The soldiers came at dusk, armored and armed with plasma rifles, their faces hidden by masks. They spread through the streets, kicking down doors, searching every home. The leader of the squad carried a banner marked with the crest of a warlord, a name people only spoke in fear. This warlord collected rare creatures, and the albino dragon was said to be priceless. Elias stayed inside, listening to boots stomping on the ground outside, shouts and cries as neighbors were forced to answer questions. He closed his eyes and tried to breathe. But then, a knock came hard and sharp. His door rattled. A voice called, telling him to open or be broken down. The baby dragon stirred, sensing danger, its silver eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. Elias touched its head, begging it to stay calm. Then he stepped to the door and opened it just a crack. 2 soldiers stood there, tall and cold. They demanded to search. Elias shook his head, claiming he was only a medic, that he had nothing but herbs and patience. The soldiers pushed harder, trying to step inside. For a moment, Elias thought it was over, but then a sick child from the street ran forward, coughing loudly. Her mother begged the soldiers not to hurt the only medic. The soldiers cursed and shoved them aside, but their distraction gave Elias a chance. He closed the door fast and locked it, pressing his back against it, his breath shaking. That night, Elias knew he could not wait any longer. The warlord's men would not stop until they found the dragon. Neighbors were already whispering, some afraid, some greedy. Someone would betray him. Soon he gathered what little he had, medicine, cloth, a flask of water, and packed them into a worn bag. He looked at the dragon, who blinked slowly at him, as if asking what would happen. Elias whispered that they had to leave, that the hunters were coming. The dragon tilted its head, weak but listening, and for the first time Elias felt words in his mind, not of pain, not of drowning, but of fear. Don't leave. Elias knelt beside it, touching its scarred scales, promising he would never leave, that they would go together. When the moon rose, Elias carried the baby dragon in his arms, wrapping it in cloth to hide its glow. He slipped through the back of the clinic, avoiding the soldiers who patrolled the streets. Every shadow felt like death, every step louder than thunder, but he kept moving. Behind them, the warlord's ship lit the sky with its searchlights. Voices shouted in alien tongues, doors slammed, boots marched. The hunt had truly begun. Elias did not know where safety lay, only that he had to keep the dragon away from those who would chain it again. As they slipped into the stormy night, Elias felt the weight of his choice. The world had turned against him, but he had something stronger than fear. He had a bond with the fragile creature in his arms, and he swore that no warlord, no army, no empire would break it. For the poor human medic had chosen to stand against the galaxy, all to protect one wounded albino dragon. The storm returned the next night, rolling across the sky like a living beast. Rain hammered down in sheets, lightning split the heavens, and thunder shook the broken cliffs around the outpost. Elias ran through the mud with the baby dragon wrapped close against his chest, his boots slipping on the wet stone. Every step a fight to stay standing. Behind him, the glow of searchlights swept the streets, soldiers shouting as they hunted him. The dragon whimpered weakly, its pale head peeking out from the cloth, its silver eyes wide with fear. Elias bent his head low and whispered over the roar of the storm, telling it to hold on, telling it they would be safe soon. His words were desperate but steady. He had no plan, only the will to keep moving. They reached the edge of the outpost, where old tunnels led deep into the abandoned mines, once used for pulling rare metals from the ground, now nothing but hollow ruins. Elias slipped inside, his breath loud in the silence, water dripping from the ceiling. He lit a small lamp, its faint flame shaking with every gust of wind that slipped through the cracks. The tunnels were endless, carved like veins into the mountain. Elias carried the dragon deeper, away from the voices outside, away from the danger. His arms ached, but he refused to set it down. Only when they reached a hidden chamber did he finally rest. He laid the dragon gently on a pile of old cloth and sat beside it, drenched and exhausted. The dragon looked at him, trembling. Then its voice touched his mind again, faint but clearer than before. Why? Why help me? Elias's throat tightened. He had no great answer, no noble reason. He simply whispered aloud, because no one else would. Because you deserve to live. The dragon blinked slowly, and for a moment, its silver eyes glowed faintly, like the reflection of lightning. Elias pulled out herbs from his bag and mixed them with water, making a bitter paste. He spread it carefully over the dragon's wounds. It flinched, but did not pull away. Instead, it pressed its head against his hand, fragile and warm. Elias froze, his chest aching with something deeper than pity. This was trust, pure and unbroken. The storm outside grew worse, the tunnels echoing with thunder. Elias kept talking, telling the dragon stories to keep it calm. He spoke of Earth's rivers, of forests that smelled of rain, of mountains that touched the clouds. The dragon's eyes closed as it listened. Its breathing steadier. Elias did not know if it understood every word, but he felt an echo in his mind. Faint warmth, like the creature clinging to his stories as much as to his presence. But danger had not left. Outside the tunnels, alien hunters swept the cliffs, their hounds sniffing the ground, lights piercing the storm. Elias knew it was only a matter of time before they came this way. He clenched his fists, his heart pounding. He had never been a soldier, only a medic. But now, in the dark of the tunnels, he began setting small traps with wire and broken tools, anything that might slow the hunters. The dragon watched him, its breathing shallow but eyes alert. Elias smiled faintly and told it not to worry, that he had patched up men worse than this, and he would patch up himself if it came to that. He tried to sound brave, though fear pressed on him like the storm above. Hours passed, the storm covering their scent, but when the thunder faded, Elias heard it, the echo of boots, the growl of alien voices in the distance. They had found the tunnels. The hunt was closing in. The dragon stirred, its wings twitching weakly, sparks flickering across its pale scales. Elias saw it and whispered quickly, "No, save your strength. Not yet." But the dragon's silver eyes glowed brighter, its small chest rising with fire it could barely contain. Elias felt its voice in his mind again. Not words this time, but raw, emotion, fear, anger, and something like a promise. Elias tightened the straps on his bag, his heart steady now. He would not run further, not tonight. He would protect the dragon here, no matter the cost. For in the storm's shadow and the hollow bones of the mines, a poor human medic and a broken albino dragon were no longer prey. They were a family learning to fight for each other, and the hunters would soon discover it. The tunnels groaned with the weight of old stone as the hunters moved closer, their boots striking the ground like drums, their voices echoing in alien tongues. Elias pressed his back against the cold wall, clutching a rusted scalpel in one hand and a broken mining tool in the other. It was laughable, weapons against soldiers in armor, but he had nothing else, nothing but his will. The albino dragon stirred beside him, its silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Sparks flickered along its thin wings. It tried to rise, but its legs trembled. Elias knelt quickly, pressing a hand against its scarred chest, whispering that it was not ready, that it had to hold its strength. The dragon's mind brushed against his faint but insistent fight. Elias shook his head, his voice rough. "No, I fight, you survive." The first group of soldiers entered the chamber, their rifles glowing faint green in the shadows. Elias's traps caught two of them, wires snapping across their legs, sending them crashing down. Sparks from broken batteries flared. The others raised their weapons. Elias threw a vial of chemical fire, It burst in bright flames, smoke filling the chamber. The soldiers shouted. Blind in the dark, Elias moved fast, striking with his scalpel, cutting through armor joints. He was not a warrior, but he knew where to cut, where a wound could drop even the strongest. His hands remembered the shapes of bones, the flow of veins. He used that knowledge not to heal but to harm. His heart thundered, his breath burned, but he fought, because behind him lay a fragile creature who had trusted him. The dragon whimpered, its body trembling as it tried to stand. Elias shouted for it to stay down, but then plasma bolts tore into the walls, stone shattering. One soldier raised his rifle toward Elias's chest. The shot came bright and deadly, but the dragon moved first, its wings snapped open. Silver light bursting from its scales, the bolt struck, but the dragon's body shielded Elias. Pain echoed in its mind, sharp and heavy. Elias cried out, rage flooding him. He dragged the dragon back, blood staining his arms. He had promised it life, not more chains of pain, and yet it was saving him. The soldiers faltered, blinded by the sudden glow, and in that moment the dragon roared. Weak, yet full of fury, sparks leapt from its body, lightning snapping across the chamber like a storm trapped underground. The hunters screamed as their rifles exploded in their hands, armor smoking, bodies thrown against the stone walls. The chamber shook, dust falling like rain. When the light faded, Elias lay gasping on the ground, his arms around the dragon, its small body limp but breathing. The soldiers lay scattered, some dead, others fleeing. The silence was heavy, broken only by the drip of water and Elias's ragged breath. He pressed his forehead against the dragon's scales, whispering broken words, promising it was enough, promising it didn't have to fight again. The dragon's mind brushed his once more, softer now, like a sigh, friend. But even as Elias held it close, the ground trembled again, heavier than before. Not footsteps of soldiers, but the roar of engines. The tunnel shook with the sound of something vast above. The warlord himself had arrived, his great ship blocking out the stars. Elias tightened his grip on the dragon, his eyes burning with exhaustion but fierce with defiance. He had no army, no weapons, no plan, but he had chosen this fight, and he would not run, not now, not ever. If this was to be his last stand, then he would make it a story the galaxy would never forget. A poor human medic and a wounded albino dragon, standing together against the might of a warlord. The ground split as the warlord's ship descended, engines tearing the night apart. The storm above bent around its vast shadow, lightning flashing across its armored hull. The people of the outpost ran to their shelters, whispering prayers. None dared to resist. None dared to even look too long, for everyone knew the warlord never came himself unless he hungered for blood. Elias stood in the mouth of the tunnel, his clothes torn, his hands shaking from exhaustion. The albino dragon lay weak in his arms, its pale body streaked with wounds and burns, yet its silver eyes still glowed faintly. Watching the skies, Elias whispered to it, voice raw, telling it they might not survive, but they would not bow. Not again, not ever. The warlord's voice thundered from the ship's speakers, cruel and cold, calling for the creature to be surrendered, promising mercy to anyone who betrayed the medic. The outpost fell silent, and Elias felt the weight of betrayal pressing against his back. He knew someone would point. Someone would speak. But before that could happen, the ship's lights fell on him, blinding, exposing him in the storm. Elias raised his chin, his heart racing. He had nothing but his broken body and his bond with the dragon, yet he shouted back into the storm, his words lost to the thunder but heavy in his chest. I will not give it to you, you will not chain it again. The warlord's laugh echoed like iron, and then the cannons charged. The sky filled with blue fire. Elias held the dragon tight, closing his eyes, ready to give his life. But in that final moment, the dragon's body shuddered, its silver eyes blazing open. The storm answered. Lightning ripped through the clouds, striking the warlord's ship again and again. The air burned with ozone. The cannons faltered, exploding in sparks. The great vessel shook, its engines screaming. The people of the outpost gasped as they saw it. An albino baby dragon, weak and scarred, calling the storm itself. Elias fell to his knees, holding it close, The dragon's voice filled his mind. Not broken now, not whispering, but clear and strong. Family. The word struck him deeper than any wound. Tears mixed with rain on his face as he whispered back, "Yes, family." The warlord's ship tried to rise, but the storm tore it apart, flames falling across the cliffs. Soldiers fled in terror. The outpost that had cowered now stood in awe, their eyes wide, their fear turned into something else. Hope. When the storm faded, Elias still knelt in the mud. The dragon curled against his chest, its light dim but alive. He looked down at it, whispering promises through his tears, that he would never leave it, that they would heal, that they would see stars together. The dragon nuzzled against him weakly, whispering back into his heart, "My friend, my family." And so on a forgotten world under a broken sky, a poor human medic and an albino dragon scarred by cruelty forged a bond that shook an empire. The galaxy would remember the storm, but it would remember more the choice of one man who chose mercy over fear, love over chains, and in doing so, gained a family no warlord could ever break.